I'm here with Alexander Mercurs, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, we have news that Trump is now looking to investigate Facebook for censorship and for coming down hard, mostly on conservative and conservative right voices. This is a big news story that has been going on now, I would say, for the last year and a half. Pretty much since Trump took office, the social media crackdown on conservative and conservative right voices has been pretty harsh. They also have decided to crack down on true progressive voices as well. So really the only people that really get a pass in the social media world, in Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc., are pretty much the neoliberal to radical liberal voices. They pretty much can say anything, and they don't get even the slightest bit of a suspension or nothing. Anything else, and you can get suspended, all the way to getting banned. Of course, the most famous banning and the deplatforming that took place was Alex Jones and InfoWars. But you've had other cases where you've had Sargon of Akkad, who was pretty much deplatformed off of Patreon, and I believe Twitter as well. And you have Milo Yiannopoulos and a lot of other cases where outright banning of these people has taken place because of the viewpoints that they share, which, in my opinion, are not very controversial at all. They're just viewpoints, and it would fall under, the right for free speech, especially when you're dealing with American companies. Now we get to Trump, and we get to the fact that his social media chief, Dan Scavino Jr., has been censored by Facebook. Trump sent out a tweet. I will read you the tweet. It's short. It's simple. There's a lot to be said as to what's going to happen next. Trump tweeted to a previous tweet by Paul Bedard, which was from Scavino, which said, "Still Facebook blocks @RealDonaldTrump's social media chief. Why are you silencing me?" asks Scavino45. So he asks, "Why are you silencing me?" To which Trump replies via Twitter, "I will be looking into this!" Stop the bias. What do you make of this, Alexander?
Well, I think not before time is the answer. I mean, I take my mind all the way back to the November 2016 election, which resulted in Donald Trump's election victory. And thereafter, and we've seen this steadily escalating, we have seen a systematic attempt to use these big internet companies, Facebook, Twitter, all the ones we know, to suppress alternative or dissident views, and especially views which in that election led to the election of Donald Trump. This has become a major problem. And we've discussed this previously on other programs. And I have said, I've expressed my view that these companies that are doing this thing, they've been saying that they're private companies, that they're entitled to do it, but they've been doing it in such a way, in such an openly biased and political way, that it calls into question whether they can possibly be the impartial platforms that they pretend to be. Rather, they're looking increasingly like publishers exercising censorship functions and as such falling foul of the First Amendment. Now, I think Donald Trump talking about investigating this thing is not before time. And interestingly, it's happening at the same time as Representative Nunes, who we know from the Russiagate investigation. He carried out all sorts of investigations when he was chair of the House Intelligence Committee. He's now bringing a claim against Twitter because he says they've been shadow banning him. That is a representative, a member of the Congress of the United States, a member of the chair of the House's own Intelligence Committee. And we've also had a very, very interesting article by Donald Trump Jr., the president's son, in which he also complains about being shadow banned. and that's on the Hill, and in which he also talks about the open and increasingly extreme bias against conservatives that we see on social media being implemented by these companies, these big internet companies, as they try to silence dissident voices and reinforce the neoliberal leftist center, which you spoke about.
Trump took notice of his son's article on the Hill, and he tweeted this, Alexander. You can comment on it. Facebook, Google, and Twitter, not to mention the corrupt media, are so on the side of the radical left Democrats. But fear not, we will win anyway, just like we did before. MAGA. What do you make of that tweet?
Well, I think, again, I come back to what I'm saying. I'm only sorry that Donald Trump hasn't been making this point sooner, because, as I said, we've been seeing it, as I said, ever since he was elected in November 2016. And we have all these other people coming along, all these strange people, prop or not, you remember them? Back just after the presidential election, New Knowledge. which has come up recently.
Really did meddle in Alabama elections. I mean,
absolutely,
and they tried to pin the blame on Russia.
Exactly, this is exactly what happened. They did meddle in the Alabama election, and it was detected, it was proved. They admitted it. And yet, incredibly, they've not been banned or subjected to any kind of the sort of controls that conservative news media sites that have done none of these things have been, but are regularly banned for no good reason, as far as I can see. Anyway, so, we've had all of these so-called guardians of the internet, which are generally acting as kind of informers to enforce this censorship that these big media companies are engaging in. And it is not before time that the President of the United States actually asked for this to be looked into. And maybe now that he has an attorney general who seems to take his job seriously in charge of the Justice Department, he didn't before when Jeff Sessions was attorney general, we might finally see some action being taken.
And so the solution is really simple. Just categorize these companies as publishers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And there you go.
And there you go. And it's over. I mean, it's over, in which case, as I said, I mean, anybody whose work isn't published, they can go to other places, and these publishers can no longer maintain this monopoly position that they have, and can be made subject to antitrust legislation.
Yeah, and on the flip side, they have all the leeway to ban whoever they want if they do act as publishers, but they don't have the cover of being defined as a platform.
Correct. Exactly. They don't have that kind of legal immunity because they're not an impartial platform. And their behavior is not consistent with them being impartial platforms. And it's high time that we dropped this fiction that is what they are.
And their economies of scale evaporate as well. The Joe Rogan podcast where he had Jack Dorsey and he had Tim Pool on, and the lawyer, VJJ, I believe was her name. I forgot her name. But it was interesting when Jack Dorsey was talking about how big Twitter is as an organization. He said 4,000 people. And Joe Rogan was kind of sitting there going, God, that sounds awfully small for such scale that you have. And I was thinking to myself, if these guys are categorized as a publisher, they're going to probably have to employ 4,000 additional people just to monitor all the posts that are coming in via Twitter so as to avoid any legal action that could, fall upon them.
It would require an awful lot more than 4,000 people. It will also require, batteries of lawyers, because the moment they become publishers, they become liable for their content. And that is a fundamental difference from what the position is today. So anything that appears on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, they become potentially liable for. And the whole game radically and completely changes.
Do you think Trump is going to follow through on this?
Well, as I said, I think I mean it's in his own interests that he should, and I personally I think a big head of steam is building up. I mean it's been going on for a very very long time, but I think Trump has held back from doing anything about it. I'm going to make a guess. I think he's been concerned about the Mueller investigation, and he hasn't wanted to seem to be interfering with the Mueller investigation. And I think if he had acted against the social media companies, it might have been seen as his attempt to control the narrative. But now that it looks as if Mueller is going to publish very soon, report very soon, and is going to say that there was no collusion and obstruction of justice, that will free Trump's hands to act in the way that he clearly wants to. The other thing is that, of course, I come back to what I said. He probably feels that he's got in William Barr, an attorney general, who will actually act in his interests rather than do what Jeff Sessions did, which is basically work against him.
All right, Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click on the notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And visit the Duran shop, pick up a t-shirt, help support the Duran. You can also get a copy of this video in audio format. Follow us on iTunes and SoundCloud. And don't forget to go to theduran.com and read all the articles that Alexander is linking up to every day. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you once again. Till next time, take care.